You're about to find out that some of the most productive fruit gardens in the world are growing on apartment balconies, not in the ground, not on sprawling farms, in pots. Most people think container gardening means settling for less, smaller fruit, weaker plants, a novelty, not a harvest. That belief is wrong, and it's costing you fresh fruit every single year. Here's what the research actually shows. A single Meyer Lemon tree, grown in a 15-gallon pot on your patio, can produce over 100 pounds of fruit per year. One dwarf fig, in a container you carry, drops 2 full harvests annually. A mulberry tree you can roll through your front door will give you 5 straight months of berries. These aren't marketing claims. These are documented yields from university extension trials and commercial container growers. The reason this works comes down to a biological mechanism most people have never heard of, and once you understand it, every plant on this list makes total sense. Here's what we're covering today: the science that makes containers actually produce, then a ranked list of the 10 highest yield dwarf fruit plants you can grow right now, with real numbers, real cultivar names, and the hidden mistakes that kill most people's crops before they ever fruit. Let's get into it. Here's something almost no one tells you. When you put a fruit plant in a container, you're not limiting it, you're triggering it. When a plant's roots hit the wall of a pot, something specific happens at the biological level. The root tips stop elongating and start branching laterally. That dense branching signals the plant's hormonal system to shift. Gibberellin, the hormone responsible for vegetative growth, leaf production, stem extension, drops. And in its place, the plant ramps up abscisic acid and salicylic acid. These are the compounds that suppress leafy growth and redirect carbohydrates toward one thing: flowering. More flowers, more fruit, concentrated sugar in each one. This is why blueberries, figs, and mulberries, plants with naturally shallow, fibrous root systems, respond to containers so dramatically. Their root architecture is already adapted to tight soil profiles. Put them in a pot, and they behave like the environment is normal. What changes is the signal to produce. This also explains why not all plants belong in containers. Species with aggressive, deep taproots, avocados, large walnuts, standard pecans, fight the restriction instead of responding to it. The plants on this list were specifically chosen because root restriction works with their biology, not against it. And there's a second advantage containers give you that in-ground growing can't: portability. You can chase the sun across your patio. You can wheel a frost-sensitive citrus tree inside before a freeze. You can put the right plant in the exact right microclimate and pull it out when conditions change. That control over environment compounds on top of the root restriction effect. The result is not just fruit. It's consistent, annual, reliable fruit. Now you understand the system. Here are the 10 plants that work best inside it, ranked by real-world yield, container suitability, and beginner reliability. The list starts where most people wouldn't expect. Not with a berry, not with an apple, with a tree that can produce over 300 individual fruits from a single pot. Number 10, Dwarf Key Lime, Citrus aurantifolia, linden. Starting at the bottom of the list doesn't mean this plant is bad. It means it has the highest barrier to success. The linden key lime is a true genetic dwarf that tops out at 3 to 5 feet in a 10 to 15-gallon container. It's everbearing, meaning it produces continuous waves of fruit year-round in warm conditions. Yield runs 5 to 15 pounds annually, with a juice-to-weight ratio up to 35%, which is elite for any citrus. Here's why it's ranked 10th. This plant has 0 frost tolerance. Growth halts below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Leaves drop below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Frost kills it. If you live anywhere with cold winters, you are committing to bringing this plant indoors every year without fail. And indoors, the low humidity triggers spider mite outbreaks almost immediately. Also, the branches have sharp thorns. Harvesting requires careful hands. If you live in zones 9 through 11 and can give it 8 hours of direct sun, this plant is elite. Everywhere else, it's a beautiful, fragrant, high-maintenance commitment. Number 9, Northpole Columnar Apple, Malus domestica Northpole. This one looks like it belongs in a science fiction garden. The Northpole Columnar Apple grows 8 to 10 feet tall and only 1 to 2 feet wide. It's essentially a living pillar of apples. Fruit develops directly along the central trunk on highly concentrated fruiting spurs. No spreading canopy, no complex pruning, no training required. You can line 3 of these up in the space a single standard apple tree would need. Container yield runs 10 to 20 pounds of full-size, Macintosh-like apples per tree annually. It fits into a 15 to 20-gallon pot and thrives in zones 4 through 8. The catch: it cannot self-pollinate. You need a second compatible columnar variety, Golden Sentinel or Scarlet Sentinel, planted nearby. That means buying 2 trees, which doubles your setup cost and doubles your space requirement. And those tall, narrow pots in strong winds? They tip. Use heavy clay or stone containers and stake early. But if you're willing to plant a pair, this tree delivers full-size apples from one of the most space-efficient footprints in fruit gardening. Number 8. Red Silk Pomegranate, Punica granatum red silk. Most gardeners in the U.S. have never considered growing pomegranates in pots. They should be. Red silk is a naturally semi-dwarf cultivar that produces medium to large pomegranates with notably soft, edible seeds, a trait that makes it far more pleasant to eat fresh than many commercial varieties. Annual yield from a 15 to 30-gallon container runs 15 to 30 pounds. It thrives in zones 7 through 10 and is exceptionally heat tolerant. What makes it uniquely suited to containers is its tolerance for drought once established, combined with a compact, upright branching structure that stays manageable. It also flowers heavily, vivid orange-red blooms in summer, followed by showy fruit that often hangs on the plant deep into fall. 2 downsides to know. First, this is a thorny plant. Pruning and harvesting require thick gloves. Second, inconsistent watering as the fruit nears ripeness causes it to split. So during the September to November harvest window, your irrigation schedule needs to be precise. The next 3 plants share one thing in common. They're thornless, self-supporting, and require no trellis. And between them, they cover nearly every harvest window from May through October. Number 7. Baby Cakes Blackberry Rubus X APF 236T. Standard blackberries are agricultural plants. Long, arching, thorny canes that sprawl 6 feet in every direction and need serious structural support. Baby Cakes was bred to be the opposite of that. Fully thornless, upright, self-supporting, compacted 3 to 4 feet in a 10 to 15-gallon container. And it produces 2 crops in mild climates, a primary harvest in midsummer on second-year canes, and a bonus late-fall crop on new growth. Annual yield runs 3 to 6 pounds of very large, sweet, low-acid berries. Here's a hidden detail most listings skip. In cold climates, the container roots are exposed to freezing air on all sides, unlike in-ground roots that have soil insulation. Once leaves drop and fall, move the pot into an unheated garage or shed. The plant needs cold to set next year's crop. It just can't have its roots frozen solid. Number 6. Dwarf Everbearing Mulberry, Morus nigra times Morus alba. If yield per effort is what you're optimizing for, mulberry needs to be in your top consideration. This plant is almost aggressively easy to grow. It tolerates zones 5 through 11. It's self-fertile. It produces in its first year from nursery stock. It has one of the longest fruiting windows of any container plant. Berries continuously from May through September under warm conditions. Yield from a 10 to 20-gallon container runs 15 to 25 pounds annually. The flavor is genuinely unique, sweet, complex, with subtle earthy, fig-like undertones that grocery store fruit never replicates. Why is it ranked 6th instead of higher? The fruit drops the moment it's ripe, and when it drops, it releases a deeply potent purple pigment that stains concrete with decking and fabric permanently. If your patio or balcony is light-colored, you need to either harvest obsessively daily or keep this plant somewhere staining is acceptable. Also, birds will find it within days of the first berries turning color. Net it early. Number 5. Raspberry Shortcake Red Raspberry, Rubus idaeus NR7. Standard raspberries are notoriously difficult to manage in small spaces. They sucker aggressively, they require trellising, and the thorns make the whole operation unpleasant. Raspberry Shortcake is a purpose-engineered answer to all of that. It grows 2 to 3 feet tall, fully thornless, no trellis needed. The canes are sturdy and upright by default. It fits into a 10 to 15-gallon container. Yield runs 3 to 5 pounds of full-size, sweet red raspberries with a distinctive, subtle vanilla undertone that makes them taste unlike any store-bought raspberry you've ever had. The flavor difference is significant enough that gardeners consistently report it as the main reason they grow their own. One cold climate warning mirrors a blackberry. Container roots need winter shelter, an unheated garage, or shed once the leaves drop. The plant requires a cold dormancy period to trigger next season's crop. Protect the roots but give them the chill they need. We're now in the top 4, and the gap between these plants and everything below them is significant. These are the ones with university-documented yield data, exceptional beginner success rates, and harvests that actually show up in your kitchen. Number 4, Sunshine Blue Blueberry, Vaccinium corymbosum, Sunshine Blue. Blueberries are notoriously fussy about soil chemistry. Getting the pH wrong doesn't just slow them down. It shuts down nutrient uptake entirely. The leaves turn yellow, and the plant stops fruiting. Sunshine Blue was specifically bred to be more forgiving about that. It tolerates a soil pH up to 6.5, significantly higher than most blueberries, which need 4.2 to 5.0. That single trait makes container management dramatically easier for beginners, because maintaining highly acidic soil in a pot is genuinely difficult. It's also one of the most versatile blueberries in terms of climate. Chill hour requirement is only 150 hours below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning it fruits reliably in southern zones where most blueberries can't break dormancy. But it's also cold hardy down to zone 5. Yield from a 10 to 15-gallon container runs 5 to 10 pounds annually. The berries ripen continuously over 3 to 5 weeks in midsummer, not all at once, which means daily small harvests rather than one overwhelming wave. Critical operational note: the shallow, fibrous root system is extremely drought-sensitive. Allowing the container to dry out during fruit development triggers immediate flower and berry drop. This plant needs consistent moisture. Always set a watering reminder. Don't trust the weather. Number 3, Bonanza Dwarf Peach, Prunus persica Bonanza. Here's where the list gets genuinely exciting. Bonanza is a true genetic dwarf, not a grafted rootstock situation. The dwarfing is built into the DNA of the scion itself. That means a compact growth, the short internodes of 5 to 6 foot mature height. It's all intrinsic. And on that compact frame, this plant produces full-size classic freestone peaches. Not small peaches, not inferior peaches. Standard grocery store size, sweet, yellow flesh peaches. Annual yield from a 15 to 25-gallon container runs 10 to 30 pounds. It's cold hardy to zone 5, and in cold climates, the container becomes an advantage. You can roll the tree into an unheated garage to protect delicate flower buds from late spring frost that would kill an in-ground tree's entire crop. Here is the single most important thing to know about this plant, and the reason most people's container peaches fail. You must thin the fruit. When small peaches are about 1 inch in diameter, you thin them to 1 fruit per 6 inches of branch. The tree will set far more fruit than its canopy can support. If you don't thin, the branches snap under the weight. The fruit that remains stays small, hard, and bitter. Thin the fruit and you get 30 pounds of full-size, sweet, summer peaches. Skip it and you get a broken tree and a disappointing harvest. That one step is the difference between this plant working and not working. Number 2, Little Miss Figgy Dwarf Fig, Ficus carica, Little Miss Figgy, PP27929. This is the most underrated plant on this list. Little Miss Figgy is a dwarf spore of the Violette de Bordeaux fig, which is already considered one of the best-tasting figs in the world. The Little Miss Figgy cultivar keeps that exceptional flavor genetics and compresses the whole plant into 4 to 6 feet in a 15-gallon container. 2 crops per year, a light breba crop in spring on the previous year's wood, followed by a heavier main crop in late summer and fall on current year wood. Annual yield runs 10 to 15 plus pounds. Mature trees in 15-gallon containers have been documented producing 50 to 100 plus fully developed figs per season. The flavor is premium, deeply sweet, rich honey-like, with a jammy strawberry red interior. Fresh figs at that quality level are essentially luxury produce at the grocery store. A single plant at home pays for itself in fruit value within 2 seasons. It thrives in zones 7 through 10, is cold hardy down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit in dormancy, and is completely self-fertile. What makes it exceptional for containers specifically is that root restriction is not just tolerated, it actively improves the plant. Figs respond to pot confinement by channeling carbohydrates directly into fruit development and increasing sugar concentration in the fruit. The container isn't limiting the plant, it's optimizing it. The one operational warning: fresh figs are highly perishable, 2 to 3 days at room temperature, 1 week refrigerated. You will be eating figs immediately, sharing them and preserving them. Plan accordingly. Rehook. Everything on this list has been impressive, but nothing we've covered yet comes close to what's ranked number 1. A plant that regularly produces over 300 individual fruits per year from a single pot that fits on an apartment balcony. Number 1, improved Meyer Lemon, Citrus times Mary improved. This is the undisputed champion of container fruit production. A mature improved Meyer Lemon in a 15 to 20 gallon container produces 30 to 100 plus pounds of fruit annually. Commercial container trials document single trees producing over 300 individual lemons per year. It achieves peak production by year 5 and sustains it indefinitely with proper care. It's ever-bearing. There is no single harvest window. There are multiple ripening waves throughout the year, with a heavy peak from November through March. At any given point during maturity, you likely have lemons at some stage of development on the tree simultaneously. The Meyer Lemon is a hybrid, part standard lemon, part mandarin, and that parentage gives it a flavor profile that standard lemons simply don't have. Sweeter, less acidic, floral, herbal, thin-skinned, the kind of lemon that chefs pay a premium for and that grocery store stocking consistently, because the thin skin makes it difficult to ship and store at commercial scale, which is exactly why growing your own is so economically meaningful. A single premium Meyer Lemon at a specialty market often runs $1.50 to $2 each. A tree producing 300 lemons per year at that value is $450 to $600 worth of fruit annually from one pot. It's fully self-fertile. It doesn't require insects for pollination, though indoor plants benefit from a quick brush with a soft paintbrush across open flowers to transfer pollen manually. The core requirements: 6 to 8 hours of direct sun minimum, consistent deep watering once the top 2 inches of soil dry out, and a citrus-specific high nitrogen fertilizer 3 times per year in February, June, and September. The leading cause of failure is overwatering. Root rot from sitting water kills this plant faster than almost anything else. The potting mix must drain freely. Non-porous glazed ceramic or heavy plastic pots work best to retain moisture without pooling. And for anyone in a cold climate, this tree is perfectly suited to the indoor-outdoor container strategy. Roll it outside onto a sunny balcony when temperatures are above 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Bring it in before the first frost. It winters successfully in front of a bright south-facing window or under supplemental grow lights. University extension programs across California, Arizona, and the Pacific Northwest consistently rate this as the single most productive and reliable container fruit plant available to home gardeners. That reputation is earned. Here's what this list actually proves. The limiting factor in your fruit garden was never space. It was information. You now know that root restriction isn't a compromise. It's a biological trigger that forces plants to fruit earlier, more heavily, and with higher sugar concentration than many in-ground counterparts per square foot. You know the specific cultivar names that are proven to work, not generic plant categories, but Bonanza, Sunshine Blue, Little Miss Figgy, Raspberry, Shortcake. Improved Meyer, the ones with documented yield data and real horticultural backing. You know the hidden failure points. Thin your peach fruit or lose the harvest. Don't overwater your citrus. Shelter your berry roots in winter. Net your mulberry before the birds find it. And you know the framework underneath all of it. Match the right plant to the right pot. Put it in the right microclimate. And container gardening stops being a hobby and starts being a supply chain. A 100-pound lemon tree on your balcony. 50 figs from a pot you can carry. 5 months of mulberries from a plant you could bring inside if it snowed. That's not settling for small-scale gardening. That's what small-scale gardening actually looks like when you do it right. If you're deciding which plant to start with one question. What fruit do you actually buy every week that's expensive and goes bad before you finish it? Because that perishable premium fruit, lemons, figs, raspberries, fresh blueberries, is exactly what these plants produce best. And every pound you grow is a pound you're no longer paying for. The next video breaks down exactly how to set up the container, the soil mix, and the drainage layer for whichever plant you choose. So you don't have to guess when you're standing in the nursery aisle. It's linked right there. See you in it.